So this talk is actually about two topics that are closely related. So the first part is about supporting Pharo, and the second part is about getting support for Pharo, which partly will be then done by Norbert. So the first part is supporting Pharo. So the idea is, imagine some of you say, Pharo, that's nice, what can I do to help? And the answer is that the first thing that you can do, and that we should never underestimate, is that you can contribute as open source contributors to Pharo. And here the idea is that everyone in the community can help. So for example, there were always questions on the mailing list and on Discord that needs answers, and it really does not scale if only core team members would answer questions. So if you are a normal user and you can answer a question that is sent to the mailing list or that is discussion on Discord, it's really helpful if you can answer those questions. Another thing is there are always issue tracker entries that need help. So there are lots of issue tracker entries, and often when I look at older issue tracker entries, I actually spent 15 minutes trying to recreate the issue, and I find out that this has already been fixed half a year ago. And these things can actually be distributed through the whole community. So there's no reason that I have to check this issue tracker entry and find out after 15 minutes that it's already fixed. Everyone can do that. Another thing is that people fix issues and they do pull requests. And pull requests, we cannot just merge everything. So we need to actually check pull requests. So for one reason is it could be that someone actually tries to do bad code. Imagine someone does a pull request and it says, oh, delete disk. We need to read the code. Even if you see the user who committed, people can be, the machine can be hacked, and someone could use your machine to commit a pull request that has a line, delete all code, delete all disk. So that means we need to look at pull requests regardless of who actually did the pull request. And everyone can actually help. So if you, there are lots of pull requests that are really simple. So lots of people, for example, there are lots of fixes about comments, so that the comments are improved, or that someone improves documentation, or small improvements. And everyone can actually help to look at the code and say, yes, the code looks good. I think this can be merged. And if we then have multiple reviews, it's much easier for the people who want to actually then merge things in the release to have the confidence that this is a good change. Because even for me, for example, it sometimes you can really feel this idea of how is this called in English? Of decision fatigue. So if you decide about 10 trivial pull requests, you get really tired and you really do not want to decide anything anymore. Even so, every single pull request that you decided about was absolutely trivial. So help there helps a lot. So if a pull request has already a review, it's much easier. Then you can actually test the fixes that people do, or you can even try to help fixing bugs yourself. Or there are lots of issue tracker entries where someone describes exactly what he did to change, or she did to change, to do the change, to fix, but then didn't do a pull request. And it feels a bit trivial. If someone's like, change in this method, this message sent to that message sent, everyone thinks nothing needs to be done. Why should I do something? It's already full described. No, someone needs to do a pull request, and it helps a lot. So this is the first thing where you can really help Pharo development. The next thing that we put into place years ago already is the Pharo Association. Here the main target are individual users that would like to contribute a little bit of money to help Pharo development in those cases where it's actually about paying bills. The price is actually 40 euro and 99 euro. So the idea was that we had a normal one and a kind of gold membership. There is a sponsoring member for if a company wants to give more money, for example. So we had companies in the past that gave money like that. And there's a student membership, which in the end is mostly for something that if you want to be going to the Pharo days and pay the conference fee lower, then this is a good way of doing it if you don't want to be a student volunteer. Pharo Association. What does the Pharo Association do? So it's mostly involved into these things where you need to pay a small bill. So for example, we have multiple domains. So there's Pharo.org, there's other ones like Pharo Consortium, things like that. So we have domain registration costs. We have hosting costs. So we do have, for example, files.pharo.org, which we need to pay for. We have mailing lists that we decided to actually outsource to a professional service instead of maintaining it ourselves to have more time for Pharo development. There's Pharo Days itself that is organized by Pharo Association and where we always need to pay, for example, the foods, like at ESUG, all these things that you have to do when you do a conference. And then, of course, if there are resources left, then we use that in collaboration with another structure, which I will explain next. And that is actually the Pharo Consortium. And the Pharo Consortium actually targets companies and academic institutions. The minimum contribution that you can give as a company here to be a member of the consortium is right now 1,038 euros. So it started with 1,000, but we need to increase for inflation. There's actually an automatic inflation increase in the cost per year. Academic membership is free, but the academic members are actually academics that use Pharo in some way and contribute as open source contributors. And there are 4 levels from bronze to platinum, but for contributing to Pharo, you just need to know it starts as 1,038 and it goes to infinity. So you can give whatever you can give that you think is good for your company or that you can give to support Pharo development. And this consortium has 27 company members right now and 29 academic institutions. And here you see a list of the platinum members, so who pay the most, and then the gold, these are platinum members. And then you have gold members and silver members, so it goes down to the bronze members on the lowest level, which is mostly smaller companies that use Pharo, maybe in one project or something like that. And from the perspective of supporting Pharo, what does the consortium do? It directly supports Pharo development. So the consortium itself has 2 permanent engineers as employees who work 100% on Pharo to push the project forward, to implement real code. And in addition, help with the management of the CI, so the continuous integration setup, to help reviewing issue tracker entries, help fixing bugs, and all these things, only as employees of the Pharo Consortium instead of being contributors as the open source projects as part of other companies. Then in addition, we do additional projects with externals. So you saw the talk before, that was one of those. And here it happens that we can then collaborate with the association. So if the association has resources left over, then we can together finance something, for example. Other actions is that the consortium can do lectures at companies or universities. And this includes even, so you don't need to be a member to get a presentation, of course. So that means that even if you're not a member, you can contact the consortium to do that. And another thing that we try to do is conference participation, so that we are actually exposing Pharo to other communities. Yeah?
Just a little interruption. Can you go put the slide, the previous slide?
Yeah.
Yes. And I should be close to you so that...
Yeah.
So there is a really important aspect there, is that there is a multiplication effect. So this means that each time a company put money on the table, then INRIA look and said, oh, there are companies that put money on the table, so we will put also money on the table. So INRIA, basically, this is not on par just like that, it's not systematic, but they understand, they don't really understand Pharo, but they understand, oh, there is a company interest, so it should have a value. And that's why they support extra engineers.
Yeah.
For example, Christophe is paid by INRIA, not by the consortium.
We could hire an engineer even though we didn't have the full salary yet, because INRIA saw, oh, That's a huge percentage and it looks that it grows. Let's hire now and don't wait until next year, things like that. Yeah. Yeah, so this is how you can support Pharo. Very important, get involved in the community and help yourself. If you are a company, allow your employees to be involved in the open source project, for example. Then, as an individual, you can become a member of the Pharo Association to help Pharo. Or if you are a company or an institution, you can be a consortium member. This topic has actually so there are 2 points of view. So there's the idea that you can support Pharo, but the other point of view is that you might actually need support for Pharo. So if you are a company, you might need support for Pharo problems. And this is the next part of this presentation. And here again, the first thing to look at is the community. So there is the mailing list, there is Discord, use it. So if you have problems, send a mail. Maybe someone will immediately say, yeah, I found it out last week, this is fixed like that. Or this way, the consortium engineers maybe see your message and they say, oh yeah, maybe I should look into that. So community is always a good first step. Mailing list, Discord, report problems on the issue tracker. So if you have an issue, look at the issue tracker, search a bit if maybe someone else has seen it already. If not, describe what you saw and what you think is the problem. It helps really a lot. Another idea is you can come to Pharo Days or to ESUG and talk with people. That's another nice way of finding support in the community. And then there is the Pharo Consortium, which has a second view, and that is that the Pharo Consortium actually provides support to the members. One thing is that there is a remote meeting with the consortium engineers every 3 months. So that is, there is actually a predefined calendar for the next half year or even for the year of the dates of every 3 months. I think it's 1 hour or even longer if it needs to, where consortium members can actually discuss with the engineers to give feedback, to tell problems that they have, to understand what the consortium is working on, and to give feedback of what they think about it. And with that, they can actually then influence the directions in a direct way. Another thing is that every membership level includes engineering time. And that for the lowest level, it's 1 day, up to 10 days for the platinum level of consortium membership. And that's, of course, interesting because this means that you can really then contact the consortium and ask the consortium engineers to help you with your projects, with your problems in Pharo. But remember, start with, if it's possible and not something secret, start with adding an issue tracker entry. This is always the good first step, and then one has something that describes the problem, and then one can see where to go from there. In addition, if the time is not enough, there is the possibility of the Pharo Consortium to create individual projects together with companies. So, for example, the virtual machine status this morning and the talk that will be done on Thursday, I think, about the perm space is one of those examples of a project where a company had a need and where then the consortium said, yeah, that's not doable in 10 days. Can we not make a bigger project out of it? And so this was done, and it's being worked on now since a year. So this is always possible, so come and discuss. This is even possible if you're not a member. So you should not say, no, I'm not a member yet and I cannot be a member. Even if you're not a member, if you have an idea of something like that, come and discuss. There will be a solution. So this was the consortium. So as a summary, for now, if you are a big company or an institution and you want to get some Pharo support, the Pharo Consortium is a good idea where you can have a look for support. And the next thing is where Norbert comes into play, and we'll talk about another interface where you can get Pharo support.
Testing, we try to make Pharo approachable for everyone. So the association, the consortium, all take their share. But if we look, and I'm coming from the industry, I'm not an academic person. So there is a few mechanics in the industry which sound more or less feasible. But if you use, we want to embed Pharo in the industry. And the most important part there is to remove the fear of using it. So if you are a company and you're doing a software project, let's say it consists of 10 components, then one of the questions that will be asked, what do I do if one of these components stops working? So, and if there's any component you have not an answer to, it will be removed. That's something that's called the critical path. So either you have something that is guaranteed or it's removed. It's on a critical path and then it's inspected. And for this, we need a company, an industrial company, which is viewed as this, which you can easily have a contractual relationship to, in order to what you get. So the story I usually tell, it's about, I think, 15 years ago, we were building a huge broadcasting platform with tons of computers, was all based on Debian. And then Siemens was the big company that just asked this question, where do we get support for Debian? And we just said, we don't know. And then the whole project was multi-million project. It was starting to decline. And only 3 weeks before the whole contract was deceased, a company called Canonical just said that they sell support for a Linux distribution called Ubuntu. And we just switched the system, which was easy. We asked the management, it was 2 calls, everything was good. They were saying, where's the telephone number I can call if I have a problem? I'm willing to put money into. So, and that's actually what Pharo Pro tries to be on top of all what we have in the consortium, association, community, is to have that industrial facade to make people believe that Pharo is usable and that if there's a problem, they get quick response. So in Pharo Pro, for instance, there's a slight support contract, which you have a static fee. So it does not change, which is also very important for the industry because allocation of resources takes nearly forever. And if they change, it starts all over again. So rather they put some saying, oh, I give you X every month, I don't care. I don't want to go to all these people saying, yeah, the contract has changed. So what Pharo Pro has is you put some money into, and then you can just call the number for up to 10 hours, something, whatever the contract says. And on top, there is consulting stuff, consulting contracts where you say, okay, Pharo Pro also has the, tries not only to care about the Pharo image and the VM, because, well, that's the language, but a product actually uses an environment. So it uses more components. Most of them it's databases, web servers, whatever you call it. I mean, it's a software component. And so we also try to support that because customers will come and the history already shows that, for instance, for Voyage, the object persistence layer we have, they already ask questions how to do this and that. And so we cannot, as a small company, or you cannot support everything because they come, you said you support open source and I have these download from somewhere and you have to support it. That we cannot do, but we try to make something we would call the ecosystem, more or less, of Pharo, that we try to support these. And also to create, if they have new applications, new stuff, that we just start with them trying to make a new open source library. So the thing we just put saying, we're not too interested to make closed source stuff, so only company stuff, because that would not flourish the whole ecosystem in Pharo. So there is, and there's always a benefit. It's all about communicating what is the benefit of having open source. So you all know that.
Norbert,
so,
I have a question. At some point you mentioned supporting an ecosystem. Did I hear it right? So
yeah.
meaning that there is a definition of something that will be supported, some boundary. And
Yeah.
did you decide on what you will put in this boundary yet?
Yeah, that's the other tiny industry. It's not, you don't put a price, you say call us. So we talk. So the thing is, I cannot come up with a static list because I will leave out stuff, and maybe the list is too small. So you can ask before signing a contract. So, and then we can even look at the code and stuff, and even things we don't already know, we can just look into. I mean, we're all kind of pros with P, and so we can look into code and we can fix stuff, even if that's not our own library. So yeah, so the industry stuff is a lot about negotiation. Usually it's negotiation about money, but there can also be negotiation about content. It's rare, but it's possible. So the final point, what we try to sell is that open source is not something new, but to a lot of companies it is, because they just don't, they use it, but they don't do it. So, and if they have needs for changing the environment, having needs, so we could also be their proxy for the community, just to take all their needs and to communicate that to the community. And that's something unique, I think, here and there's few people, there's strong connections between all the association, consortium and Pharo Pro that we really can offer a decent help for anyone that is willing to do something with Pharo. Oh. Yeah, what I said. What we try to do is really, because between the consortium and the Pharo Pro, there is an overlap. Everyone will ask that, yeah, but why is there a Pharo Pro? Because the consortium does something. But if you look closely, it's different. So, because in the consortium, I think the best thing you can do is something like hire an engineer and saying, I have goals for the future. I wanna drive that Pharo platform, and I'm willing to put a whole position into this. And so we can develop the future of Pharo. What I get in Pharo Pro and what I'm willing to do is that I get a Slack message. So, do you know how we can load that and that? So the developers there, they don't have to seek for this for 5 hours. So they can just ask, and then they already have something. Maybe that's not something the consortium is perfectly suited. So they would have go to the community themselves, but so that's all, again, the proxy stuff. So there's an overlap, but the distinction point is that talking to industrial companies is different. So, and in consortium, I think there's more companies coming to the consortium, and we are just like attracting them not to have too much fear to use it. And what happens, and you get sucked in and you cannot go back. So that's the hidden plan. Yeah. Soll ich vorlesen? Any more questions?